Hi, and welcome to another mastery class. Today, before we start, I want to share some information. This class is being taught live here on Substack. It is recorded and published on Substack for free subscribers. It's published on YouTube here on my platform, and paid subscribers always receive an invite to join me live. So if you want to keep joining me, if you want to start asking questions, please join the paid subscription. And otherwise, you receive the recording and you can ask questions in the notes or in the comments. Right. So before we start, I want to look back at last week. Last week, I started the Mastery Class series about the Alchemy Code. And I explained to you from the title of the first book what the two other parts of alchemy are. The first book is called Mind Mastery. And the Alchemy Code in the Mastery House is not only a series of books, it is also the process I use in my teachings, in my coaching, in the education I give to people who want to become a coach or a mentor or a leader. So these three processes combined, mental mastery, emotional intelligence, and the embodiment of true self, form the whole recipe, if you wish, to become conscious, to develop, to transform, and to start expressing from a core self authenticity. This whole process has come together after more than 15 years of experience being a human being in the first place, because a lot of it is lived through experience from myself. That's how we learn, that's how we integrate. And all else is study work from a big set of one side, holistic psychology work, and on the other side, strategic organization and development study work I did. And I integrated all of this in the mastery theories and then created a whole process around it. And what I'm sharing in these mastery classes is little pieces from that process, little pieces from the trilogy books that can help you become conscious, develop, transform, and express yourself through these little snippets of inspiration. So then, the backbone of this body of work that I'm offering. And if you want to work together with me, you can find information on the subject of Substack page or the House of Mastery website, or, under the videos on YouTube, you'll be finding information as well. You can work with me one-on-one, online, offline, and I have a program that I'm going to invite you to in a different message I'm going to send out. It's a year program and it'll be hosted in English and it is hosted in Dutch in real life in Delft over here. So if you're interested, I'll be sharing information on that. Right, now back to this video. I'm going to be talking about examples because from the teachings that I've done, by the way, if you want to look back on these teachings, you can find all of them on Substack, and I have started publishing these videos in English on YouTube as well. So if you're over on YouTube, welcome to my platform and welcome back. I've been gone for a little while, but my main core platform right now is Substack because it's so brilliantly built. I can really do everything on it. I can publish my articles. I can record my teachings. I can even create short stories. I can send out notes. I have all my email list on there. So it's a brilliant platform. I'm very happy with it. So if you want to look back on the videos, because I've been explaining quite a lot of theory already, please go back and find them on the Home House of Mastery Substack page. Because I've been explaining so much theory, I now, because I got the questions as well, if I can give some examples, I'm going to share with you some life examples from people I've been coaching who had problems, who had blocks, who experienced stagnation and stress in their life that came to me, that I guided through the alchemy process and the mastery theory and help them move through whatever they were facing and move out a lot of the effects and the pain and struggles they were experiencing. So I have proof results, and well, I actually have proof references of a lot of people, which is always beautiful to get that feedback, that how they experienced the process, the book, the program, whatever it is, and that it worked, that I was able to guide them through negativity and struggles in their life, because that's my main objective, to be to service to others. Right. So I'm going to use the book actually as a reference, because on the front of this first mind mastery book, here in white, you see all the causes that might lead you to want to find solutions. And these causes that made you want to search for help, read a book, go watch a video. They have a name, and they are actually uh, not the cause. It's the effect of the stagnations that you are experiencing. So it's the pain. And what I'm going to talk about is how breaking down mental patterns in the first step, but you also have to take the other steps, can help you with fear of failure, with anxiety, procrastination, perfectionism, imposter syndrome, burnout, and depression. Yeah. So these are in grand all of the causes and effects that I with this method can help you with. So if you're struggling with one or either of all of the mentioned, um, please follow along and let me guide you through it. So, and I'm going to give some examples to you, but I also would like to go a little bit deeper and search for examples in all of the, well, I think uh, more than 1,000 people I coached in the past 15 years. Also give you a little bit about the cause of their pain, because the pain itself is just the effect. The cause goes a lot deeper, and the cause is always found in the beginning of your life, the beginning of the chords that helped you come into this life. And then I'm talking about the father and the mother chord that actually helped you birth into this life and into the world that you got to experience through being born in this family where you come from. And that is not the only chord. There are three chords that are very important when you want to start looking at rebalancing, resetting, and rebuilding yourself. It's the maternal and the paternal chord, but in the middle, it's this chord. It's the chord I always talk about, and it's your emotional intelligence, it's your intuition, it's your spiritual chord, it's your ability to ground yourself in your own life force. And what I mean with that is that if through a disruption in the two chords that help you come into this world, so the maternal or paternal or both of them are blocked, and that means that they themselves, mother or father, or both of them, have not been able to uh, to to have a very strong connection with their own life force. This will have an effect on you, on how you are birthed into this world, in how you grow up into this world. So I always go back and look into the family system to see how the cords were formed, if they are healthy cords. And when they are not, you need to do some healing and some work on those cords that are disrupted. And that can have the effect on you that you grow up with a mental program of adaptation that has formed you, and that has also blocked you from being very grounded in your own life force. I hope this is clear. I'm going to write an article next to this video to explain it in words so you can reread it. But it's the core essential element of the mastery teachings and of the alchemy code process. Yeah. There is no escape, even when people come to me when they want to work professionally with me. And that's completely possible because, yes, it can have a lot of effects later in life in your profession. It'll show up in different relationships where you are blocked off, where you are mentally constricted in an architecture that doesn't respect your authenticity. Worse, even, it disrupts. It disrupts your and blocks your authentic expression through the adaptation that was necessary in the beginning of your life. So it doesn't matter if halfway through your life, it is through your professional work, through your personal relationship, through your problems with your children, problems with your health. It doesn't matter how it manifests. If I want to look at the cause of the problem, we always go way back. We go on the timelines that I explained in the earlier videos. We need to look at how your core buildup, the core buildup of your energy system was created. What is the foundation of the energy system that you build upon? Because if that energy system, and that's the trinity of the mind, body, true self that we always work on in any program, any mastery program, if that foundation somewhere along the way is not stable and strong enough, you need to go back. And I have good news for you. This is the human experience, especially the human experience in our day and age, in our society and in our culture. Because your mother and father, just like my mother and father, are a child of this society and culture. And they, unfortunately, that generation and the generations before them had difficulty, had a lack of proper grounding and proper nutrition and protection to grow that self-nurturing, grounding life force themselves. And the effect is that the children that came after them and the children that will come after you, if you don't do the repairs, will have the same effects. And the effects can be the list of things I just read. And this is actually where it starts. Fear of failure, anxiety, procrastination, perfectionism, imposter syndrome, burnout, and depression. If you carry on navigating through life with these effects, it will later show up in health problems. It will show up in reality problems, divorces, problems finding your path in life. It can cause illness. It can cause, that's why it doesn't matter. Anything, any struggle people come to me with, I always take them back and we look at this cause. And the process is the same. The alchemy process is the same for everyone. But the story, the life story, I've shared this before, is very different. And the disruption can also be very different, because a lack of proper nurturing through the father and mother cord can be either mental, emotional, physical, spiritual, or all of them. Some of you have experienced a loving mother that was very emotionally caring, but maybe a lack of physical safety. Some have experienced it the other way round. Maybe a lot of physical safety with things taken care of, money being available, but no emotional nurturing or protection. Yeah. And mental nurturing can be a trigger as well. If there are certain mental patterns in your father-mother relationship that were handed down to you, you can take over forms of perfectionism, pleasing. So this can be disruptive as well. Yeah, because you can live from adaptation or from autonomy and authenticity, but so do your parents. And the more authentic and autonomous your parents have been, are, and are evolving into, the more you will also feel and have that space to evolve and develop yourself. So, um, these relationships are all connected. Yes, we cannot look at one part of your life, say your professional work, without looking at the holistic, systemic part of where you come from. That's impossible. And sometimes people come to me with a burnout, with depression, with with anxiety, and I'm going to give you some examples. And they are sure that the problem is happening in the here and now, and they are experiencing it on the work floor. So that's where the cause must be as well. That very judgmental boss, that very demanding director, that very challenging work you're doing, that must be the problem. But then we have to create more awareness and consciousness around that whole field, what I've been telling you about in the past few videos, to see the full complexity of that experiencing that you might be having in the here and now, but that goes back way further in timelines and creates stress because of repetition and because of unconsciousness of the patterns that you're experiencing and reliving. Yeah. So by looking at the bigger picture, not only on the effects, but we go back to the cause. And we go back to the cause by looking at the mental script that you adapted, that you started associating with, that you took on as your personality, and that then changed into your identity. You thought that it was your identity, but in fact, it was the personality buildup. The mind and the ego create a personality that can live and be and adapt to the circumstances in the outside world. Your identity, your true authentic self, is that innate, given DNA blueprint soul that you were when you came into this life. Yeah. So part of your DNA is God given and completely unique. And then there's a part of the DNA that is handed down through generations through the mother and the father. Yeah. So we have to look at all of these parts to understand the chemistry and the alchemy necessary to transcend that darkness that you experienced as a child, that you took on in the mental patterns that blocked off the emotional intelligence, and that created that inability to transcend into the full potential and embodiment of the authentic self that is waiting to be uncovered inside of you. Okay. That's how complete as possible as I can explain it to you. Right. So when we start with examples, let me look at my list. I actually made a list. I normally do these teachings and just start yapping. I think that's the word. Start teaching, start talking, and everything just comes to me. And I've been teaching this for so long. But when I quote examples without, of course, exposing people because there's privacy, I want to be very respectful and be sure that I'm doing it the right way. Right. Fear of failure at first. Fear of failure is created, the experience itself. Fear of failure is created by the demand that you experience from the outside world, can be by to one of your parents, can be later on by upbringers in the form of teachers, but it's early in life feeling a demand that you could not meet, or thinking, because that's the problem most of the time with fear of failure later on in life, you think that there is a demand that you cannot meet. So one is reality that you experienced, and the other one is actually the stress that you create yourself by believing that that demand is being set for you. And it doesn't really matter if it's the reality experience or the thinking that this is what's being demanded of you. Inside of you, it creates the same stress and it creates the same fear of failure. Yeah. So fear of failure is an inner experience that has a cause. And the example I'm using is a young woman, a very, very, very intelligent woman who came to me through her professional experience. Her director wanted her to have coaching because she was so insecure that it completely blocked her off sometimes. And it made certain situations made her so insecure, she actually broke down crying a couple of times. Anxiety really, really hit her on some points when she got triggered. But, well, her potential was just so beautiful and so visible as well that her director wished for her to be able to work on this so she could grow in her professionalism and, of course, also in her personal development. So when we looked at the course, there were a lot of examples where she sometimes had to go on site. And when she faced bullying, dominant, critical male feedback, which wasn't very respectful and way off track. And this would trigger an onset of mental and emotional inside overwhelm that would create so much fear of failure that she could completely block off. She wouldn't know what to say anymore. She would freeze. And that's actually one of the reactions to fear of failure. It's either fight, flight, freeze, hide, fawn. And she would freeze. Then she would love to hide and fawn and do anything to stop that confrontation with the person standing in front of her. But of course, when you're in a professional surrounding, it's important that you know how to handle these situations, to keep on communicating, set boundaries, be very specific, be very clear about what you do, what you don't want, and how, especially as a product leader or a manager, how you wanted this situation to be repaired. But this didn't happen. She'd completely freeze, wouldn't know what to say anymore, go home, cry, and be very, very triggered and in pain and discomfort. So we looked at those experiences. But for me, for her to be able to heal, to develop through this, we had to go back And I had to understand her life story and her background. Now, she was from a Chinese background. She moved and she came to live here as a child with her parents, which was very stressful, both on her parents, and there was a lot of stress around this in her early childhood. Her father had to work very, very hard, was absent, and her mother was very, very unhappy. Turned out that she didn't really want to make that move from China to the country that they came to live in, and was very unhappy and started projecting unconsciously, consciously this onto her child. She blamed her child for not being happy. She set very high standards for her, very high demands for her. She had to kind of make her mom happy through the grades that she was bringing back home, for her mom to feel at least that it was worth that she moved here. Yeah. Also being from a background and a family where connection wasn't very emotionally warm, wasn't very tender, wasn't very nurturing. It was very strict. It was very cold, and it was very much focused on presentation, on grades, and on status. Yeah. So absent father, very critical, demanding, angry mother. And in this type of culture from this family, I'm not saying that's a cultural overall thing, but in this family, when standards were not met, when grades were not, when she didn't come home with good grades, her mom would get so angry and would actually slap her. So this created a very, very unsafe environment for her to grow up in. Yes, it is the core pain of the fear of failure that she experiencing when standing on site with one of her team members or one of the clients that is dominant, that is angry, and that is shouting at her. Although it's not personal, she relives and experiences what she experienced back then. Yeah. Very triggering, very hard mental script to work against. Because what happens when we experience stress, and I describe stress as a lack of safety, a lack of stress, which creates a lack of empowerment that we experience. That's the complete picture of stress. It creates emotions as fear, guilt, shame, and sadness. Altogether, that creates the experience of being very insecure, being anxious. Yeah. So there's certain groups of experiences that fall under the same cause of not experiencing enough safety and grounding in early life for a child and later on a human adult being to build up that foundation that you need to build on later on in life to be able to shift into different roles and versions of yourself in the evolution of your life. Yeah. Because we all need to be able to shift and transcend into different roles according our development. And what I mean by that is we all come into this world as a child. And when we are able to shift through that experience completely, we are able to fully shift into the next role and task. From a child, we grow up into a woman or a man, and we set out to create a profession these days, but we used to call that being able to take care of ourselves, to be able to feed ourselves. So we choose work, we choose a profession to create power and set out energy, give out energy to receive money where we can buy food from and pay for our house from. In order to shift into these roles in a complete way, in a healthy way, we have to shift out of that child role completely. But if we haven't been able to do that because we don't have that foundation of stability, of safety, of trust, and of empowerment to become independent, um, the mind had to take over and adapt into a personality that was vigilant and more busy with surviving, with adapting, than with becoming strong and autonomous and independent. Yeah. In stress, the mind takes over. Yeah. The more stress, the more mental patterns you build. But in general, even without stress, we all build that personality. We need to have that adaptation version of ourselves, that personality that is be able to act out in the world. So there is no difference between any of our life stories there. Yeah, there is an adaptation version, but there also should be enough space for that autonomous adult space and true version of yourself that can later on in life grow into all of the roles and versions of yourself that are aligned with your potential. If you only develop that personality, and when nobody only develops personality, there is always autonomy because, yeah, the way you evolve is that you learn how to eat, you learn how to shower, brush your teeth. So there's always self-sufficiency at a certain level. But for me in coaching, I need to look at what's the difference between the adaptation and the authentic self. And sometimes the adaptation is so big, and the cautiousness and the alertness to the outside world based on anxiety is so formative and present. This causes the stress, and this causes the fear of failure. Because in her case, the fear of failure was a true experience, but later on in life, it was more the thinking of I cannot meet the demands that I'm faced with. So it was more of an internal stress that was still being caused because in her mind, she still believed and experienced things of her child self. Yeah. So we have to go back in alchemy, look at that child, look at what she experienced, fully integrate and live through pain, sorrow, sadness, anxiety, shame, everything that it caused, for her to heal that version of herself and be able to more and more transcend into that grown-up version, that woman that is setting out now to become a very intelligent, professional, technical engineer. Yeah. Because that version of her was still so present and demanding and fearful. Once set out on that side when she met that very nasty, very nasty man that triggered her, she was pulled back into timelines because there was versions of her over there that still needed her attention and healing. Yeah. So working with her through that is looking at the experience that needs to be emotionally processed. So that's where we bring on in part 2 of the alchemy code. After this, we bring on the emotional intelligence. Yeah. Instead of blocking the experience, we need to bring it up and work through it because there's information there that she needs that will tell her in the here and now that dominant man is not somebody she should be scared of. It's somebody she should be setting boundaries for, putting in his place, telling him to shove it where the light doesn't shine, and talk to her in a respectful way or be removed. Yeah. So there's a lot of information for her there that can, this man triggers fear, but you don't have to pick up on that fear if you can be in the here and now and not being pulled back in your old experiences and look at that man for what he is, an unrespectful, I can say a lot of words now, but it's got nothing to do with you. It's everything to do with him and the unprofessional, unwanted, undesired way he's presenting himself. Yeah. But to be able to do that, we have to look at those timelines first, do healing work first there, work through these experiences so she can pick up on the signals that he's sending, not ignoring it, feeling that he's trying to trigger fear, not picking up on the fear, but setting him straight. Yeah. Demanding respect, demanding for him to stop at the boundary that she says, and just to put herself, go away and find another place to work if he doesn't change, if the situation doesn't change. There is danger there, but you need to pick up on the signals, not ignore them, suppress them, just like you did with the memories. Otherwise, your emotional intelligence can't tell you that you need to get away, that you need to set him straight. And you cannot embody, that's the third part of the process, embody being that very strong professional that can handle that job if you do not go back and heal that part of yourself. Right. So that's example one I'm giving you. Example two is anxiety. Now, that's a very general concept, but a lot of people that you see having normal lives on the outside, doing their work, having their family, can really, really struggle with anxiety from the inside. Yeah. And normally they have tried loads of things when they come to me, and they've actually started giving up on believing that they can live without anxiety. Yeah. And having panic attacks and having anxiety set in once in a while, completely wiping you out. And maybe even later on in life, starting depressions is something you can work on, because again, it has to do with the patterns that started and the chords that you started with at the beginning of your life. Now, looking again at the maternal side, I will talk about the paternal side of disruptive chords in the next video. Maternal chords, your mother, a healthy mother, is protective for her children. Yeah. Protective for the space they need to receive the nurturing, the care, the motivation and the inspiration and the wisdom. Yeah. For them to be able to fully grow through safety, trust, and empowerment into their unique selves. So the mother should be able to have life force for herself in that way. If you want to be a completely empowered mother and give out your life force in protection to your children and grant them a space where they can build up their strength and power and ground themselves into this life to become healthy adults, the mother should be able to do that for herself in the first place, do her work of healing if she has to go back and heal inner child wounds, to be able to shift into womanhood, to be able to shift into motherhood roles, other types of roles that will define her and her uniqueness for her to be able to do that for her children as well. Now, what I'm saying is actually quite rare because of the cultural generational background that we all have. No mother will have a complete open space for her own life force. She will be dealing with her own blocks, with her own issues, with her own challenges. As long as she is aware of that, conscious of that, works on that, I think that's the part where we are in this day and age, that at least a lot of mothers these days are more conscious about and self-aware about who they are and where their work lies. But being conscious, working on that will generate and create more space, more protection and nurturing for the children that she brings into this life. Yeah. When the mother has disruptions in her life force, disconnections to her own mother cord, to her own father cord, and not have a very grounded life force cord herself, this will have effects on her children. Yeah. Because in the beginning of your life, you are completely dependent on the life force that you are given. And this again can be physically completely fine. You can get enough food. You can be born into a beautiful crib with a beautiful room in a very, very big house and still be emotionally, mentally, and spiritually completely neglected for who you are, what you need in matters of connection and matters of safety and emotional and mental and spiritual safety. Yeah. So all of these things can be disrupted in the mother that can cause disruptions in the children. And a mother role needs to be protective and nurturing. Yeah. And if the mother can do that for herself, she can then be protective. And with protection, I mean she sees what needs to be done in the outside environment and for the child itself to be grounded, to be nurtured, to be inspired, to grow. Okay. So I will be writing an article about the maternal cord disruption to explain it to you further. I've given you two examples. I will see in my article if I can share a little bit more about this. If you have questions, is that all I wanted to share with you? Yeah, because in the end, you need this space for you to fully express yourself from an authentic part. I explained to that in the beginning. So there is a process that we need to evolve through and circle back through. And this is not a one-time thing. What I hand you in the book and in the program is a process that you can implement in the rest of your life if you want to navigate through contrast that you live. So if you face anxiety, if you face procrastination, you can start recognizing the mental pattern that blocks you off from expressing your authentic self. And the way that a mental pattern will do that, it will create fear of failure. It will create procrastination. It will create imposter syndrome, or it will create burnout if you're working on the wrong things in your life. Yeah. It will cause depletion because your mind will keep telling you, you need to be able to do that. You must be that person. You must do this. You must please. You must be perfect. You must. And this causes so much internal stress and creates so much stagnation because of that, that there is no healthy space for you to be and to express the authentic self that you were given. Yeah. Because of stress and mental patterns that are pointing you to be somebody else than you truly are in the outside world, this is where you get disconnected of that authentic self. So in the alchemy code, you move through mental mastery to recognize the pattern, to understand the story, to break through the mental pattern, actually start dissolving the blocks of emotions that keep you stuck. Start listening and using and connecting to your emotional intelligence, because that will help you shift through different roles and archetypes, we call that, and be able to embody your full potential in all of the roles throughout your life and cycle. That's not a one-time thing. We keep on cycling, we keep on growing and evolving into different versions, into different roles and tasks throughout our life. Yeah. And the more you want to grow, the more you will also have to be willing to go back and look at where did I not yet disclose any disrupted cycles, any transcendence from dark to light. That's the alchemy that I need to heal inside myself so I can build my energy system in a very strong, self-sufficient, authentic expression of what I came to be and do in this world. That's it for today. I thank you very much for joining. If you have questions in the live, you can ask them in the comments. And if you're watching a recording on Substack or here on YouTube, you can leave a comment and I'll react to you. That was it. I hope you enjoyed. See you next time. Bye bye.